Alright guys, it's finally time for a spot guide. Welcome guys to a new video here on my channel. Today I'm going to tell you why Tarifa is my favorite windsurfing spot in Europe, and you'll get a full spot guide of all the spots inside of the Bay of Tarifa and a bit more. Tarifa is the southernmost point of Spain, and this has a couple of advantages. A, you find the warmest temperatures here basically anywhere in Europe in the winter time, and then as you're so close to Africa, the wind is getting funneled through the Strait of Gibraltar. Because of this strait, you basically have two different wind directions. You have Levante, which is the wind coming out of the Mediterranean and into the Atlantic, and then you have the Poniente wind, which is the other direction, the wind coming onshore from the Atlantic. We're gonna check all the spots inside of the Bay of Tarifa now, starting out directly in the town of Tarifa at the easternmost spot. So let's head over to Balneario and then work our way down the bay. Let's go. So this is the furthest spot east in the bay and our first spot on the list. It's called Balneario or Playa Chica. And on this side we have the Mediterranean Sea, and on the other side of this little island is the Atlantic Ocean that we have throughout the rest of the bay. And Playa Chica can be a super fun spot, but it's very short because you have the wind just coming over this wall, and then as you head further down the bay, you are right behind the city, so the wind is getting kind of funky, gusty and not super enjoyable. So you only have a very short distance. You can go either slalom speed here or also free ride. You have super flat water, and during Levante wind you also have kind of the strongest wind here in the bay. You also have very nasty waves here that are breaking super hollow. They can be the biggest waves you have in the whole Bay of Tarifa. So when you have big waves, it's kind of tricky to get out and in, and they're breaking, like I said, very hollow, so it's kind of hard if you're trying to get out. And I got washed here a couple times already, actually. Another thing you need to take care of are the kite surfers, because this is the spot where they train for the big air. So I've had a lot of issues with kiters here before, because they're most of the time, I have to say, unfortunately, not looking out before they're jumping, and then sometimes they're landing on the windsurfers or very close, and this is not so much fun. So this is kind of a very funky spot. It can be super fun, but certainly not a beginner spot, also because the distance is so short. So not a spot for every day for sure, but it's quite unique and fun, as you just have this kind of vibe here with the Mediterranean on one side and the Atlantic on the other. Let's head over to the next spot called Campo. Guys, we hopped one spot further to the west and we're about 2 kilometers from Balneario, where we just were. Basically, between Balneario and here, there's not really any options to go windsurfing, because you're right behind the town that is basically killing all the wind and making it super gusty. This spot is called Campo, and it's really the flat water paradise here in Tarifa when you have Levante wind. You can go speed surfing, you can go flat water free riding, all this good stuff. Super easy. Only downside to the spot is that you have a very long way from the parking over the beach to the water. It's probably around 300 meters here. And it's the furthest walk here in Tarifa if you want to go windsurfing. The upside is you're met with this beautiful flat water conditions on Levante days, and you have a 2 kilometer long speed strip all the way to Agua Chiringuito, where we will go next. I've had some pretty amazing speed sessions here over the years, and in contrast to Balneario, you have a much longer way to the next spot called Agua, and in Balneario you just have basically 300-400 meters before you're in the wind shadow of the town. So for speed surfing, this is really the dream spot, or if you're just looking for flat water. If you sail further out on offshore winds, you have to be very careful, have someone on the beach, take your phone, take the precautions, because the next stop from here is probably Madeira or America, so you don't want to get lost with your gear outside here. And the reason this spot works so good with the offshore winds is that there are not many obstacles in front of the beach. There's no buildings, there's no big trees or anything like this, so the wind can flow pretty freely over the beach, and we don't have so much gusts like we have behind the town. What's a bit of a problem since 2 years here in Tarifa is the parking if you have a car of higher than 2 meters, because most of the spots like this one here at Campo, you cannot go inside with a car that's higher than 2 meters anymore. They blocked the entrances. So if you have a car with more than 2 meters, it's possible to go out from here, but you have a 100-meter longer walk as you need to park further back. And that's the case for a lot of the spots here. I'm going to tell you where it's possible to park with a bigger car and where it's not. One thing that can be a bit of a challenge here, even though you have the flat water, sometimes you have still waves coming in from the Atlantic. And then it can be pretty hard to get out. So yeah, let's head over to the next spot. Then we have the third spot coming from Tarifa. This one is called Agua Chiringuito. And guys, please excuse me if I'm butchering the Spanish names. Obviously, it's not my native language. I'm trying my best. And yeah, this spot is pretty much similar to Campo. You also have offshore wind here. It's coming pretty much nicely undisturbed because there's also no buildings behind here. Straight behind me are some little trees, but the wind is usually still coming quite good because it's not as offshore as it is at Campo. It's coming a little bit more side shore already. So depending on the wind direction, sometimes you have very flat water, sometimes it's a little bit more side shore. So you have some nice grass here to rig up. Then over here, we actually have a little bar. So there's a bit of infrastructure here compared to Campo. And the benefit here compared to Campo is that you don't have to walk as much. The beach, I would say, is like maybe 2/3 of the way, maybe 200 meters, maybe 150 meters instead of 250 at Campo, something like that. And if you have a camper or a car higher than 2 meters, you can also come here. There's no restrictions. Sometimes I've seen someone here collecting like €1 for parking, but I actually believe that guy was not anyone who officially was just collecting €1 to sit there. So if you didn't give him the euro, it was also fine. I'm not 100% sure what was going on with that. But yeah, it's a nice spot. I'm actually not here that often, sometimes on Levante wind when I want to do more slalom than speed, but certainly also a good spot for Levante winds. So let's head over to the next spot. And this one I'm a bit scared because I'm filming this on a Sunday. And this spot can get pretty crowded on a Sunday. Yeah, the road here is really bad. When you come in, you have to go super slowly. But this spot is called Arte Vida, and this is really the spot where I'm probably the most, because every day, even when there's no windsurf, I just come here. There's a lot of lifestyle here. On the weekends, the spot is really full because a lot of locals from around the area, from the big cities in Spain, are coming here to spend the weekend. If there's surf, there's pretty good surf here, so there's also a lot of surfing on this spot. Here you can also park with a big car, it's no issue here. I like to go for windsurfing to this spot when there's poniente wind. Then you have onshore wind coming mostly a little bit from the right, so that you can kind of go out nicely. The waves are not super clean or epic in any way, but you do have some nice waves sometimes, and you can ride a little bit. So you can do 1 or 2 turns, you can jump a little bit. It's just a super enjoyable spot. You have a very short way from the beach. You have the infrastructure. Arte Vida is actually the name of the hotel, so you can go inside the hotel to have a café con leche, eat something. There's toilets, there's everything here. So this is a really nice spot to just chill and go for a little session. You can also go slalom here, which is really nice when the waves are not too big. We're pretty much halfway in the Bay of Tarifa here. And yeah, just overall a super beautiful spot. And I really encourage you, if you come to Tarifa, you have to check this one out for sure. Then we have a little secret spot here. And I'm not entirely sure if this one even has a name. It's basically if you drive 500 meters further down the bay from Arte Vida, and then you turn left, and then you have this spot right here. I like to come here when it's super crowded at Arte on the weekends, because here usually there's not so many people. And this is actually more a surfing spot, because here you have a little bit of a stone reef that's going out into the water, which is making for a nice break. And then you have a secondary spot behind me over there, which is called the bunker. And this is pretty much where you have the cleanest waves here in Tarifa. But to go windsurfing, both of these spots are super hard. A, because it's not easy to get out on the water. You see there's relatively steep cliffs here, so the wind near the beach is not strong. Then you have the rocks. The wave is breaking kind of big. If you are a skilled wave surfer, I think it's pretty nice to go out here or at the bunker. But for me, I've actually never gone out windsurfing here. I prefer to go over at Arte Vida, but I thought I'd mention this spot. Guys, before we head to the next spot, I need some quick lunch because it's actually taking quite a while to film every spot here in Tarifa. So let's head over to the Hurricane Hotel where you can have some super good lunch actually. And that's another thing about Tarifa, that the food is actually not that expensive here if you go out to eat compared to the rental prices. Guys, second to last spot. We're at Bibo Beach Bar now, and here you have a nice lawn where you can rig. So no sand on your gear. You have to pay at this spot, unfortunately, since 1 year now. Before it was free. It's not super expensive. Usually if I go here for a 2-3 hour session, it's like €2.70 it was last time, I think. So it's still not super expensive, but yeah, you have to pay a little bit. And yeah, we have this beach bar over here. Usually in winter when I'm here it's closed, so it's not a huge benefit. But it's nice that you can rig on the lawn. And you can go here when you have Levante and you have side shore here, unlike Campo or the other spots further up where you have offshore wind. And it makes it a little bit safer because you have over there, you have the dune. So when your gear breaks, you're not immediately lost. You get swept to the shore again, and that makes it a lot safer than going offshore windsurfing at Campo, for example. But yeah, it's also quite a far walk here to get to the beach. And actually over there is already Dunas, the next and last spot on our list. When it's poniente, this bay is actually pretty nice. There's this little hill over there. That's to the way of Bologna. This one. So the wind is getting kind of a bit accelerated when it's like a little bit southwest. When it's northwest, the hill can be kind of a hindrance for the wind to come fully in here. Usually it's getting kind of accelerated, and it's kind of the best spot for the poniente wind when you want to do slalom or foil or stuff like that. For wave surfing, it's not the best spot as the waves break kind of really near to the beach, very hollow. So I would not recommend this spot for wave surfing. When it's blowing super offshore, of course, the further you head down to Tarifa, where we started, the stronger the wind is. When you want a little bit less wind, it's also a good option to come here to have maybe 5 or 10 knots less than you have directly in Tarifa. All right, let's head over to Dunas, and I'm going to show you the last spot inside of the Bay of Tarifa. Let's go! Guys, quick little advertisement for Point 7, because we are actually organizing a flatwater stage on the island of Sardinia in Porto Polo, happening from the 1st to 3rd of May. So if you're looking to improve your flatwater skills, slalom skills, whatever it may be, check out the flatwater stage by Point 7. I will be there as well for coaching, and I'd be happy to see you over there. Let's get back to the video. We made it to the last spot here in the Bay of Tarifa. This one is called Las Dunas. As you can see, we're standing right in the dunes, hence the name. And over there, somewhere there is Bibo, where we just came from. So it's not that much further, maybe 300 meters down the beach. And yeah, it's the last spot inside of this bay. As you can see over there, the bay ends. But this spot actually has some unique advantages, despite the fact that you also have to walk quite a long way over the beach, and there's this little lagoon, this river coming out, so you have to walk over this one. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. But the big advantage you have here is that this little cape is kind of protecting this bay a bit from the waves. So when you have super gnarly waves, gnarly shore break at all the other spots, over here it can sometimes be a lot easier to get out because the waves are not coming straight onshore, they're a lot smaller, and you're kind of protected here. So I go a lot of times here when it's wavy and I want to go slalom. I just go out here because I don't have this gnarly shore break where I destroy everything. Also, when you have poniente wind, sometimes this spot can really accelerate the poniente wind, and then you have sometimes the strongest wind that you have in Tarifa right over here. Also, the conditions here are super flat, so you can have some really fun kind of flat water sessions despite it being onshore wind. And this is why I really like this spot. I like Dunas. It's pretty much the same if you go out at Bibo, because you're also kind of sailing on the same stretch of beach, but it's easier to get out at Dunas. This spot also has a height restriction for the car. I think here it's 2.20 meters, so a little bit higher. But yeah, with a camper you cannot go inside here. But at least it's free, so you don't have to pay anything, which is nice, because Bibo now you have to pay. During Levante wind, you have kind of sideshore conditions here, same like at Bibo. So you can have a nice sideshore session coming out, but usually the wind is a bit better during Levante wind at Bibo, because here right in front of the dune, the wind gets kind of a little bit stalled before the hill. So it's better to go out over there at Bibo. I guess that's the last spot, so let's head over to the outro. So those were all the spots inside the bay of Tarifa that you can see behind me. Obviously there's a lot more spots if you're willing to drive a bit. For example, the next spot over this hill here is called Bologna. It's a fantastic wave spot. Then what I mentioned before, you have Caños de Meca, which is also amazing for wave surfing. You have great spots for just surfing without the sail. For example, El Palmar, where the waves are a lot bigger. In Cadiz you can go windsurfing. So there's so many options here. All of the spots, I would say individually, are not maybe the best spots there are in the world or anything like this. You don't have the best wave spot in the world here in Tarifa. You don't have the best speed spot in the world. But what makes Tarifa so unique for me is the variety of conditions. Between having Poniente wind and Levante wind and then changing the spots, there's so much different stuff that you can do. You also have not just windsurfing, you also have surfing, which I really have to say I enjoy a lot doing here. So fun to learn really, and you have so many options. The wind is also pretty consistent. You don't have wind every day, but if you want to be out on the water, you can pretty much go on the water every day, do something. SUP, surfing, windsurfing, whatever it may be, and then you even enjoy your rest days. This for me is a big reason why I enjoy this spot. I don't like to go somewhere, especially for a long time, if I have the same conditions every day. At some point this just gets boring. Here you can have a day with 50 knots of Levante, full power. The next day you can have 50 knots of onshore Poniente and some waves. And the conditions just change every day. This is the one aspect why I really love to come here every year. The other reason is it's the most southern spot in Europe, and you can drive here. You have the best temperatures in the winter without having to fly anywhere. And I have to say, in windsurfing, for me, this is a big reason why I come here. I hate flying. I hate to restrict myself to just take, let's say, 2 boards, a waveboard and 1 slalom board. What do I take? And here I can just drive. Of course, it's a long drive. From Germany, it's 3,000 kilometers, and that's a lot. I'm lucky that I can work remote in the winter. I don't have so many events, so I can come here for 1 or 2 months and just live here. Then it's worth to drive so far. If you don't have so much time, you can fly to Malaga, which is also a pretty good option. I recommend any one of you to check it out for yourself. Spend a few weeks here, enjoy what Tarifa has to offer. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this spot guide from Tarifa. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy it, like I said before, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel to not miss any of the next videos. We're so close to 10,000 subscribers now, so that would be a huge milestone for me to reach. Thank you guys, and bye bye. See you in the next one.